Today, I am sharing the best news you don't want to hear about. Something that actually raises Alzheimer's risk by 69%. It's not what you think. It's not fate. And in spite of how you might feel about this initially, it is very good news. A new study linked higher blood sugar after meals to a 69% higher risk of Alzheimer's disease from research out of the University of Liverpool, recently summarized by Science Daily. My name is Eileen. I reversed the worst of my early Alzheimer's symptoms simply by changing how I eat. That's why this article caught my attention. Let's have a look. I'm going to skip the summary and go right into the overview. A research team from the University of Liverpool has reported new evidence suggesting that sharp increases in blood sugar following meals may raise the risk of Alzheimer's disease. The findings point to after-meal glucose levels as a potential factor in long-term brain health. I'm just going to pause for a minute before you start tuning out. This is a very short article. It's not very sciencey. A sharp increase in blood sugar is a blood sugar spike, we call that sometimes, or glucose spike. Okay, first paragraph. For years, studies have shown that conditions such as hyperglycemia, diagnosed type 2 diabetes mellitus, I'm not sure I'm saying that right, and insulin resistance are linked to poorer brain health. These metabolic problems have been associated with higher chances of cognitive decline and various forms of dementia. However, exactly how blood sugar disruptions contribute to these brain changes has remained unclear. Large genetic study using UK Biobank data. To explore this connection, researchers examined genetic and health information from more than 350,000 UK Biobank participants between the ages of 40 and 69. I'm going to pause for a minute here. This is just me talking. I think it's important that they're looking at ages 40 to 69. I don't know about you, what I used to think of Alzheimer's disease as, an old person's disease. Something, well, if I get it, I get it. And, who cares when I'm 80? Well, 80 is a long way from 40 to 69, right? Once you hit your 50s, you start deciding how old is old, and suddenly 60 doesn't seem that old anymore. So they're looking at people beginning middle age, 40 squarely, middle aged, and they're not climbing up into 70s, 80s, 90s, right? I think that's interesting. Okay, back to the article. The analysis focused on key indicators of how the body manages sugar, including fasting glucose levels, insulin levels, and blood sugar measured 2 hours after eating. The team used Mendelian, I'm not sure I'm saying that right either, Mendelian randomization, a genetic method that helps researchers assess whether certain biological traits are likely to play a direct role in disease risk. The approach allowed them to test whether different measures of blood sugar regulation could be linked to the development of dementia. Post-meal, next heading, post-meal blood sugar linked to Alzheimer's risk. There it is. There it is. I think you think this is not good news, but really it is. The analysis showed that individuals with higher blood sugar levels after meals had a 69% higher risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. 69. This specific pattern of elevated glucose, known as postprandial hyperglycemia, stood out as a key factor. Importantly, okay, I'm going to stop. It's a fancy name, but it just means a high blood sugar. That's all it means. Importantly, the increased risk was not explained by overall brain shrinkage or damage to white matter. This suggests that elevated after-meal blood sugar may affect the brain through more subtle biological processes that are not yet fully understood. I'm going to pause there too. My experience, I want you to know that when I talk to my primary care doctor about what was concerning me. She said, yes, if you came to me with one of those symptoms, I would be concerned. But multiple? She scheduled me right away to see if I had any obvious brain damage tumors, and that wasn't the case. Right, exactly. So the very same boat, like this is me. This is me. Next heading, implications for prevention and future research. Dr. Andrew Mason, lead author, said, and I quote, "This finding could help shape future prevention strategies." Yes. Highlighting the importance of managing blood sugar, not just overall, but specifically after meals, end quote, which is bizarre to me because I don't know when your blood sugar spikes if you're not eating. Is there any medical people out there that could explain that to me? Like if you don't ingest something, how is your blood sugar spiking? I don't know. But I loved his focus on prevention, right? And finally, oops, I lost my place. Dr. Vicki Garfield, senior author, commented, quote, "We first need to replicate these results in other populations and ancestries to confirm the link and better understand the underlying biology. If validated, the study could pave the way for new approaches to reduce dementia risk in people with diabetes," end quote. Okay, I have a bone to pick with Dr. Vicki Garfield. I appreciate her concern about a known risk pool, people with diabetes, especially like type 2 diabetes, right? We know that their blood sugar is not managed well, and so clearly there's the link. But this study didn't say that they were examining only people who had type 2 diabetes. I mean, I think that it could be preventative and healing for anybody, you know. And if you just glance through this article, you might see hyperglycemia and diabetes and think it doesn't have anything to do with you, but it does. I know that if your current diet is heavy on bagels and popcorn and pasta, this doesn't really sound like good news, right? The implication is, yes, we need more research, but there's clearly a link. And I know that if you are eating a lot of bagels and popcorn and pasta like I used to, you don't want to give those things up. You want there to be a magic pill that's going to fix the problem. But I don't think it works that way. And my experience is that by dropping the bagels, popcorn, and pasta, I reversed the worst of my early Alzheimer's symptoms. So I believe you can too, and I'm out here spreading the good news. Thank you for spending time with me today. Thank you for liking and subscribing. And until next time, let's all stay strong, wise, kind, and good. Choose real food for real health.